we're at 2:01, so I will call the meeting to order now. Welcome, everyone. My name is Cy Jordan. I am the Director of Equal Opportunity, so I'll be co-chairing today with Salima, and I'm replacing Ashanti Payne for today's meeting. I want to welcome everyone, and then also welcome Elaine Richardson from San Diego Association of Governments, who will be joining us today, and will give a presentation on information related to their bench program. So a couple of the notices and housekeeping items that we start with in these meetings, I will go through those quickly with you. COVID-19 has caused us to alter our meeting procedures, and the Metropolitan Council Chair has determined that it is not practical or prudent to conduct in-person meetings due to the pandemic. The Metropolitan Council and its committees and advisory committees will conduct meetings in accordance with Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021, and members will participate by telephone or other electronic means. Given that it is not feasible for the public to attend these meetings in person, the Council will permit pre-registered members of the public to comment during the public invitation portion of this virtual meeting. The public is encouraged to monitor this meeting remotely via our website and YouTube. The public may also submit comments to public.info@metc.state.mn.us, and we will respond promptly. We will be in our virtual format until at least through October 31st of 2021, upon notice by the council chair. And we do have one comment today, so at least one person registered for our public comment session at the end of our agenda, so we'll make sure that we leave room for those comments. And so additional housekeeping reminders for this virtual meeting. Please mute yourself if you are not speaking. If you are entering into this meeting on two separate devices, as we just had a small conversation on, please make sure that you mute at least one of your devices to avoid the echo. And if you are having technical issues, let us know in the chat and we'll try to resolve them. Please close other teleconference applications, as we have learned that it improves the meeting audio and visual quality. This meeting is being recorded by Met Council, and meeting handouts and presentations are posted on the project website, which is SWLRT.org. Additionally, there will not be an update this month from the Building Strong Communities team. They will be providing a substantial update in September. And with that, I'll turn it over to Salima.
Thank you so much, Sai. We're going to go through the roll call now to ensure that we have documented who's here today. Checking in if anybody is here from Building and Trades, Barry or Jenny. Okay, I see Gilbert and Eric, welcome. Marvin Smith, are you here? Okay, I see Sheila from Goodwill Easter Seals. I see John Clem from Hired. Is Alex Merritt here from Twin Cities Rise? Okay. Tony O'Brien from Summit Academy. Okay. I see Maura Brown from Higher, Minnesota. Anybody here from the city of Minneapolis, Leslie or Dan? Anyone here from Ramsey County, John or Dave Gorski? Mindot, Mary or Sheila?
Yep,
see Barb.
Mary's here, sorry.
Oh, welcome, Mary. I see you, Barb Lau from Association of Women Contractors. I see you, Christa. Anyone else from your team at Lunda?
Dale, maybe jumping on for a little while.
Oh, hi,
there
Dale. I hear you now.
I'm calling in. I'm driving here, so.
Okay, sounds good. Katie, I see you from CS McCrossin. I see Chris Gannon and Mike Toney from APJV.
Hello.
Elaine, I see you. I see Sam, John, Mahad, Eli, and Sai from the Met Council. Anyone else here? Okay,
Brian Runzel's here.
Yep, Brian, I see you from the project office. Ellis Black, anyone here from Ellis Black?
Brian's here.
Okay, welcome, Brian. I see Elaine Richardson and Brittany Yamagata from SANDAG. Anybody else who has not been called? Okay, thank you very much. Next, we're going to go through the meeting summary notes that are a part of the agenda today. They are in the handouts. And if you can please review them and let us know if there's any additions, corrections that you would recommend, please let us know so we can finalize them. I'll turn back to you, Sai.
Salima, this is Barb. If I could just ask that in the meeting minutes, because we have two Brians, if we could put which one instead of just referring to comments by Brian, that would be really helpful.
Thank you, Barb. That's a very good suggestion. Thank you. We'll make a note of that. And Brian's, we may have to come back to one of you and figure out which one of you made the comment from last meeting.
Yeah.
Any other feedback? Okay, thank you. Sai, I'll turn back to you.
We will move to the first item on our topics agenda, and I would welcome Sam Mcconnell on the Southwest Light Rail Project update.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, co-chairs, for that. Happy to be with you. So I would just say that our kind of project update is a little bit shorter, but it is small but mighty. I'm just really happy to share with the group here a major project milestone last week, where we had the first light rail transit tracks placed in Hopkins. This is very exciting. This is where the first time a lot of the members of our public, the residents, the businesses that we've been working with can actually see the light rail tracks in place. So this is downtown Hopkins Station. If folks know where Hopkins Honda is, it's just right next to there. It's also part of the city's larger vision of just connecting 8th Avenue to the main street, and really just revitalizing that community and just really supporting the really good community assets that they have there. So very exciting for us. We hope to have a celebration not only for Hopkins, but for all of our communities as the light rail gets in place and it really becomes more of reality for a lot of our folks. So if you drive around Excelsior, you'll probably be seeing the teams out there and the rail. So just wanted to share that with you. If we can move to the next slide as well. Just a couple of updates on some of the work that's going on with systems, and folks more in the know can definitely chime in here a little bit, but a little bit about our traction power substation. So if we go to the next slide, folks can take a look at this kind of a rain test. As you know, these TPSs are the size of shipping containers. They're outdoors, so they need to, go through a series of testing to make them kind of worthy of that. So that's what that looks like. If you move to the next slide, please, you can see it being delivered at the Franklin Operation and Maintenance Facility. So you get a sense of how big these are, and this is actually on our property, so that's good, but we do have these out, of course, out in the community as well. Moving forward, we'll just kind of highlight a little bit that's going on. Speaking of the Franklin O&M facility, if we move to the next slide, we have kind of show some of the interior work that's going on, the painting, the lighting, HVAC. Very exciting for this, and maybe the next slide just continues on a little bit more of what's occurring. So we've got our light rail lift system in there, and our next kind of just shows a little bit more of the activities of making this facility come together. And then our next slide after that really has kind of our rail control center. This is where we monitor all of the trains and where they are along the corridors. And so this is very exciting to see the displays up there, because we'll actually have people sitting in front of them and really tracking the trains. So another wonderful milestone for the project to actually have this as well. So with that, I'm happy to just report, I think one of the more happy points of these milestones with our project, and I will turn this back over to our co-chairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Are there any questions for Sam? Moving on in our agenda, we next have Jon Tao, who will cover the DBE Achievement Reporting.
Thank you. Okay, slide 14. So here are our achievement and numbers as of June 30, 2021. The contracts that we have are the civil contract, which is about 75%, or I'm sorry, not 75, 50% complete. Systems contract is about 25%, and the Franklin contract is 75% complete. And if you look at the DBE progress reports in the handouts, that's where I'm pulling those numbers from. It's based on what's been billed to date compared to the total contract as it is. There are some change orders in the works for some of those contracts, so those percentages are just based on the information that we have right now. Considering that the DBE billing for each of those contracts, the participation that we have been tracking to date, it's great to share that the contracts are exceeding the goals. So as we continue on, we'll continue to monitor the progress as the invoices and the pay apps come to us, and we'll continue to monitor them. And then we'll also continue doing our quarterly reports and check-ins with the prime contractors, and that's the plan. So next slide, please. Along with the monitoring of payments, we are also going out to the construction sites and monitoring the activities out there of the DBE firms, and then checking in with them to see how the progress is going, to see if there are any issues that we can assist in. So over the last month, we met with 9 DBEs on the civil project, and some of those pictures that you can see is from the Southwest Station, where we met up with E&J Rebar and then also Econ Placer. Those are some of the OEO interns that are assisting in doing the site visits with the contractors. So we have also visited the Franklin contract, and as you can see from some of the pictures, they are pretty far along. And then the systems contract, we've been lucky to see a couple of them out there, but they are still waiting to get more folks on the project. So I believe the APJV team will probably tell you more about what's coming up ahead in the next couple of months here in their update. That is what I have for my DBE section. If I will turn it over to the co-chairs.
Any questions on this section for Jon? Hearing none, we have Christa Seaberg next for the LMJV DBE activities.
Great, thanks you guys, and hope everybody is having a super day. So with that being said, for the DBE participation, as you guys see for this month, and we're going to be showing moving forward to upcoming participation, so you guys can see ahead of time who is going to be doing work out there and what type of work. But as you can see, we're running hot and heavy right now. It's the busy season for us, and we have great DBE partners on this project. I mean, I can't say enough about the work and the participation that they're doing with their scopes and everything. It's really, as I say each time, it's great to see the growth in our DBE program. So there's that one. And if you could go, any questions about this current one? And then here's an addition to it. And we also include the stations contract, where we have DBE participation on our Lunda subcontract. Great work moving forward. It's going to be pretty much the same teams as what you're seeing now for the month of September, unless Dale has something else. Otherwise, let's go to the next screen, please. Here's a great highlight. We have Zts Trucking. It has seriously been an extreme pleasure of mine to build relationships with a company that Lunda has worked with in the past, but for me, this is my first experience. There are on-site trucking service. You know, there's so many different trucking aspects when it comes to the construction industry, but when it comes to heavy highway, you know, light rail type trucking, services, there's a lot of actual activity within the project instead of just the delivery. And I don't mean to sound, minor, but the delivery of materials on vertical construction. So ZTS is doing, like I said, a fantastic job. Not only their drivers and stuff, but the team, their office team and everything is just great. Here's a great quote, ZTS has seriously been an integral member of our team, ensuring materials and equipment arrive on site and then throughout the various locations of the project in a very timely manner. And their safety and performance is superb. That quote hits it right on the head. It's really cool to see this relationship grow. Any questions about it? If not, I do believe that is it for, oh no, we have one more slide, sorry. Here's our change order slide. So you can see the order, the owner change order is quite large, for the project, and the DBE change order is, follows right along with it. And that's one of the nice things too, that I really want to, point out, like on John's slide, the goal is 16%. And with us 50% of the way through the project, and with this magnitude amount of change orders, only 50% of the way through, our percentage right now to see it over 20% to the project team, So any questions regarding this slide? If not, I thank everybody that helps us with our DBE participation. That's it.
Thank you, Christa. We have Brian Leitch next.
I'm sorry, no, Chris Gannon.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well today. My name is Chris Gannon, the PM for the Systems Project for APJV. The first slide we have here is some great news. We have a new DBE that we've come to an agreement on, a fully executed subcontract, and that's Topline. They're going to be installing and furnishing the signage for us on the project. So they were not part of our original DBE plan, but we're glad to have them on board, and their work is going to be coming up a little bit later in the project. Next slide, please. So this is our work that's upcoming, like we've been talking about for the past few months here. The majority of our field work has been moved into the year 22 next year. We are still doing some minor work. First up here is Gunner Construction is going to be scheduled to be working at West 21st Station, doing some comm work, putting in some back boxes in the ceiling. And then we're still trying to get out to do some TPS foundations at a few locations on the right of way, and that would involve Dione, Bald Eagle, Multron, MBE, and IMO. Next slide, please. So here's our change orders. We're just over 8 million on change orders that we received from the council. The big one recently is our storage change order, and we're happy to report that Gunner had a significant portion of that change order. We were over our 12% commitment with Gunner on that, and that's reflected in the number for Gunner of 1.4 million in change orders. And you can see our DBE participation percentage is very good at this point in the job, and we're going to keep working hard to make sure it stays up there at a high percentage. Next slide, please. I think that's it. Are there any questions on the systems project for APJV? Thanks, Christa.
Thank you, Chris. And we have a way to go systems from Christa.
Yep.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
No, I was saying, yeah, we're kind of off to a little bit of a slow start, but definitely in 22, 23, we'll be hard at it.
Great, thank you. And now we have LS Black, and we have Brian Leitch for the DBE activities update.
Yep, thank you. You can go to the next slide, please. All right, update on our current change orders and current contract. You can see there through 6/30, we're at that 39,276. Our current DBE contracts is at that 7.4 number, which is putting us at 19% committed. And then build is tracking pretty similar. We're at 33 million as of 6/30 build. Our DBE team was at that 6.1, so it's tracking right on where we're at with our committed at 19%. You can go to the next slide, please. And then just some of our ongoing DBE teams is Go Fetch Mechanical, which has been a big portion of it. They're kind of wrapping up here because we're trying to do some test and balance and get that going. Toney Painting has got a large scope to still go. They're chasing everybody painting. They've been a huge help. And then you can kind of see down there on the bottom, we're going to get into some finished bathroom areas. So always down in tone for Stone and Tile team, excuse me. And then Wasota's lockers and Dbe caulking will be following up as well. So that's kind of our bulk of our DBE team here toward the finish line. Go to the next slide, please. I think that may be it. Any questions out of Franklin? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Now, Elaine, if you can give us the workforce participation report.
Hi, everyone. Can we go to the next page, please? So for the civil contract in June, they recorded 79,093 hours. Since the start of the project, it's been 1,347,671 hours. For the month of June, for women, they came in at 8.56%, and they're at 8.19 or 8.2%. For POCI, they came in at 25%, and they're at 22.1% overall from the start of the project. The next slide, please. So the breakdown in terms of the hours, there were 962 unspecified hours, or about 1%. White women had 4,694 hours, or 6%. Women of color were at 2,073 hours, 3%. Men of color came in at 17,699 hours, or 22%. And white men were 53,665 hours, or 68%. Next slide, please. For the trucking that's being counted on the civil project, MBE has logged 22,711 hours. ZTS, that Christa just highlighted, has 4,164 hours, and Rock-On Trucks has 683 hours. And next we will go to the Oat Systems, excuse me. In June, they worked 38 hours, and they have worked 387 hours since the start of the project. There were no women working during the month of June, but they're at 19.9% overall. And for POCI, they had 29% people of color, and they're at 28.17% overall. Next slide, please. For the Franklin, for the Franklin project, during the month of June, they logged 4,471 hours. And since the start of the project, they have worked 76,084 hours. For women during the month of June, they came in at 7.05%, and they're at 7.68% overall. For people of color, they came in at 23.57%, and overall, they're at 23.88%. Excuse me. For non-specified hours, they're at 19.37% for the month of June, but overall, they're at 5.49% from the start of the project. Next slide, please. So here are the unspecified hours, 866 hours, 19.37. White women came in at 162 hours, or 3.36. Women of color came in at 153 hours, or 3.42%. Men of color came in at 901 hours, 20.15%. and white men came in at 2,389 hours, or 53.89%. And I believe that's all. I will turn it over to the co-chairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Linda McCrossin, Joint Venture, would like to come and report on their activities.
Great. Here I am. I'm back again. So let's go to the next slide. Workforce activities, you know, with our good faith efforts and just overall project activities regarding workforce. You know, as we all know, we continue with our monthly subcontractor meetings as well as our internal joint venture meetings regarding our participation and how things are going with everybody and everything like that. Those meetings are going better, I think, than they have. They've continued each time get a little bit better and give a little bit more resources and everything for our subcontractors, which is a big goal of mine. The other thing too, we have our continual update meetings within the joint venture representatives and Linda and CS McCrossin groups regarding, you know, the actual project work going on, plus the upcoming hiring needs. Those are we talked a little bit about it, I do believe, last month regarding our site visit that Katie from CS McCrossin and I did. But what's great, I'm going to bring it up again because we had a great meeting with Salima and Elaine and John and everybody regarding their visit. It was really cool, you guys, to hear both from Katie and I and from the government team on what it was like going to the job site. I cannot express enough, everyone, how nice it was and how rewarding it was to see the smiles, to see the group activities, to see the non-segregation taking place. When the meeting was taking place, the group was all together. They were cohesive and all talking together. The camaraderie on our job site is the best I've ever seen in the construction industry. And for those that know me, and now those that are going to get to know me, we're talking 20 years. It is very encouraging to see the proactive job sites that we have going on at the light rail. And I give a huge kudos, you know, to everybody on that job site, the superintendents, the foremen, you know, the veteran, you know, people that have been in the industry, but also the new ones too. So very, very encouraging to see. So there's a big piece of it. And I look forward to the Met Council and Human Rights visit again next week. The reason there's two of them, and it was so fun to tell our team today why there's two, is because of the magnitude of the project. There's just so many people to see and talk to that it does take the right amount of time, and I really respect and thank the agencies for taking that time. You know, it's very, very important to us. So if you want to go to the next slide, please. There is great activity and scuttle happening and has been and continues to grow. Katie and I, so Katie from CS McCrossin and myself, as well as our awesome systems and facility partners, continue to meet and plan regarding you know, things you don't want to just jump in and do an activity besides our things we're already doing with our community-based organizations. We are meeting closely with Dunwoody and as well as Building Strong Communities representative. Jenny Winkler is our main rep for that, to get some things in place with our partnership regarding outreach for the light rail project. To update you guys on that, because I know a lot of people like to know, there aren't any solid dates set yet, but there are tentative, there's time of year set as well as activities, what they would look like. We're working with Dunwoody right now on the Scout surveying badge, the potential of being able to do that. We might have ran out of a little bit of time, but it's something we can continue forward for maybe next, you know, next season for them. But what we are planning on doing this fall is going to be having different groups from the stages of the project teams do presentations to Dunwoody classes regarding their part of the project, whether it be project management, engineering, architectural and design, you know, that whole, the piece of the project, as well as the mechanical, electrical, sheet metal, that other area. And then those presentations are going to be followed by project tours, and in smaller numbers, so that there can be some great question and answer sessions with those students. And one great thing to note, you guys, with Dunwoody is the location of their institute is a big plus for us. The logistics, the geographical, I mean, just everything is just so proactive. But the main reason why Dunwoody became our lead educational institution partner is because of what they have in place, but also their core values regarding the building of our participation.
I'll go in the other room.
The
Okay.
PLCIs and the female, the women, not just in the workforce, but in just construction in general. One great thing to note regarding Dunwoody is their electrical division. Their dean there is now Polly. And I always butcher her last name. That's why she laughs at me. And I've known her for 20 years. She started out as an apprentice, one of the first female apprentices in the state of Minnesota. She is now the dean of that school at Dunwoody. So there's one of the really cool success stories, and she's going to be a big part of our team. So it's really cool. So that's this coming fall. And we have a lot of our, between the LMJV, the systems, and the maintenance facility, plus all of our subcontractors. We have a great team being put together for that. And then we have some other hands-on type community and school events that are in the creation stages. So that's that piece right there. And then we continue, like you guys know, our partnership with Building Strong Communities is very important to us. So we're continually meeting with Jenny and others regarding how our team, and again, not just the LMJV, but our subs, can be proactive in supporting that great program. Any questions with regards to those? If not, next slide, please. Here's our, and I apologize for the team that knew, this information just got to us late. COVID has hit Linda, and it hit the team that usually gives us these numbers. So anyways, as you can see, this past month, excuse me, July was a very good month for us regarding hires and transfers. You're only seeing right now with this report the Lunda, the joint venture, and the CS McCrossin. You're not seeing the entire project. So always keep that in mind, because there are some other numbers that are really, really fun to see. But those are the numbers right there for us. With this screen being on, before I ask if there's questions, what I do want to highlight, and I thank Elaine continually for the awesome reports that she provides everyone, but especially thank you because it helps me. Yesterday, our good faith effort meeting, it was really fun to look at the June numbers, but then, because of what we're able to pull, I was able to also look at the July numbers. You guys, the numbers, we're not meeting goals yet, but for those that have been watching throughout the project, the numbers are growing, and they're growing in consistent, very good numbers. The other thing I like to highlight about it, the 32 and 20% are goals for the construction industry. 4 years ago, we went from the female goal from 6% to 20%, only 4 years ago. For last month, for the month of July, the light rail project is now at they're 9%, 9.5% female participation on the project. So the growth is happening. It's not going to all of a sudden jump from 6% to 20%. It's going to take a lot of time and effort of our teams, but it is happening. And I give kudos to everybody working hard, not just the contractors, the unions, the community-based organizations, but also our government representatives. So there's that piece. And let's see, I think that's it.
Christa, I see a comment from Tony O'Brien from Summit Academy. Tony, do you have a question you want to ask Christa, or any feedback you want to give her before we move to the next project? Sorry, Tony.
apologize. Have to get us off mute. No, I think what the work you're doing with Dunwoody is fantastic. And Dunwoody is a great organization. I think that you will find that the demographics of Summit Academy is different. Probably more to meet some of the targets that we have, both for people of color and women. And we put out people every 10 weeks. So I'm just saying that, give us a call. I don't know you. Yes.
You're going to get to know me, hon. Real quick, the reason why, and it's fun, Katie, jump in too if you want. What we did is, it's kind of like during the state capital project, and Elaine was a part of this one. It was really cool. We there's so many awesome ideas, and those that know me, watch out, the brain is full of them. But what we're doing right now with Dunwoody is the very beginning dream stage. And then what's really neat is we have a list of the CBOs that we want to, when these events go into the actual, this is the direction we want to go event. Now we need to bring in the other experts. Summit Academy is at the top of that list.
That's great. I'm looking
the other
forward
thing
to that conversation.
Yeah, because you hit it right on the head in a couple areas. Number one, the demographics, of course, are very, very important. And that's why there were a couple other entities that wanted to jump in and participate with this, but because of their demographics weren't a part of our core values regarding workforce development, we knew we had to peacefully decline. And that's why it is really cool to, especially location, demographics, what you guys already have established, to be able to bring you forward into the great, pieces. Because look at you guys, we have 3 years left on this project. Number one, we can create a beautiful blueprint. There's a lot of different activities going together, and wrangling them together to work as a team is one of my big goals for this project. And Tony, I truly look forward to it. And you and I do need to sit down together. So I apologize it hasn't happened yet.
In my mind,
I'm
more
glad
is
you brought
better.
it up.
It just always is. More is better. Right?
Absolutely.
For the populations that we serve, more is better. So let's just do that because it's there. There's a talent pool, and people are creating good people coming out of these programs. So let's just connect and figure out a way to make it work.
Sounds like a great plan.
Hi, Christa. Not to prolong this discussion, but it does make me a little curious. So Dunwoody, do they have a pretty diverse talent pool? Or I guess that's what I'm saying.
They do. They absolutely do.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're able to get. I know they've got more women, but are there more people of color, and specifically, since I'm a Black person, more Black people?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Definitely.
All
And
right.
that's why. And to go back, you guys, real quick, the reason why Dunwoody was initially, we were looking, we have our relationships with the community-based organizations, and we have people not just in the LMJV, but our subcontractors, the systems, the maintenance facilities, and their contractors are working with community-based organizations. Dunwoody is the educational institution within the Twin Cities that we selected because of their geographical location. One of our stations is right there at Dunwoody. Dunwoody has, here I go, free parking and lots of space to have big events where we can bring in the communities as well as all of our CBOs to participate in the events. That is the main overall picture of why Dunwoody. So I hope that makes sense to everybody.
That makes sense.
We wanted to pull in.
That makes a lot of sense. So
this is Toney again, and I really apologize, but I think you need to do a demographic comparison between Dunwoody and Summit. And I don't care. I think Dunwoody's great. I've worked with them in a lot of different ways. I think their graduates should have every job opportunity in the world, but it's not the same population. I don't know why. They're only like blocks from us, but they serve a different clientele than we do. So Just check that out. That's all I'm asking.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Toney, and thank you, Christa. Thank you, Mel. Really, really great conversation.
Thanks, guys.
APJV? You might be muted. We can't hear you. Mike, are you? Mike, are you presenting on behalf of APJV?
There's a good chance, you guys. Mike was at the airport. I'm trying to see here real quick. I know he was going to be catching a flight. So
Yeah,
maybe
he seems to be signed in. We do see him, but yeah, he is here, but we just can't hear him. Perhaps what we can do, if it's okay, for our, John, is could we do the next one and then come back to Mike? Go to Ellis Black and get their update first? Okay, Ellis Black?
Yep, it's Brian. I was going to say the same thing.
Peter.
Hello, can you hear me now? Hello.
Yes, we can. Hi, Tony.
I'm
Hi,
sorry. My headset must have I don't understand it. Anyways, if we could scoot back a little bit. I'm sorry. Cancel. Okay. So APJV. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm at a midway, so things are a little goofy here, and I'm at the terminal. Background noise, but sitting on the meeting. Just wanted to just listening to the conversation about Summit Academy. You know, I was at Summit Academy last Friday for mock interviews with the 3 mics there. Wonderful facility, free parking. Talked to Chris Henton, the construction training manager there. We're planning a 1-day event for safety trailers and training trailers to come to Summit. We're working at a day event there with Chris, and our teams will bring our trailers, which we train all of our field for underground work and safety and all that kind of good stuff. So Summit Academy is a great place, and looking forward to going back there, meeting the next cohort. But, you know, craft labor is not going to really get going until 2022. As of last Thursday, you know, we had, I think, 38 hours in the month of June. So there's really not a whole lot going on. Still no activity as of last Thursday to speak of. Still communication with Agility Resources out of South Dakota for some, they're trying to get their DBE certificate in South Dakota and hopefully reciprocity in Minnesota. They have electricians. They work through Local 160 already, female electricians, POCI group. So hopefully we get a crew out of there. So we're still talking about that. We got a Zoom meeting that we had scheduled for August 11th that got postponed with the unions and CBOs. It gets getting pushed to September 8th, I believe. And we got Local 160 coming and joining us with our subs and meet the people. And then, like I said, we participated at Summit Academy last Friday, and we look forward to meeting the future cohorts as we progress in this project. So really not a whole lot of activity today to speak of. And the next slide. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions for APJV? Okay. Thanks, Mike. You can go ahead and mute. We'll move on to Alice Black. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's Brian with Ellis Black. You can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so some of our workforce activities is our first one there is monthly good faith efforts or meetings usually with MDHR. Probably going on a week or 2 ago we had that, and we'll have another one upcoming. So good, transparent conversation, open and honest about where we're at with things, what we can do better, reporting some of the subs we can hammer on a little better for action items. So that's good to do every month. Mike and Christa already hit on this one a little bit, but I got to thank Christa for her help with setting up some of these events. The CBOs, I think Mike just mentioned too, was September 8th. So coming up here in 2 weeks. Third bullet there is just reminder emails, right? That's just monitoring our participation and sending out notices as necessary to some of our teams where we need action items, where we need to improve on. One note not on there is we have had some T&M work going on site, so we have an opportunity to help jump up some of our crews that may need to increase in participation. So that's good to know. Fourth bullet there is similar, just tracking our goals. Again, that would go with the third one there. But working with our sub teams and some of our team that's still left to increase as necessary. We do have a little bit of work here to the finish line in early November. So we're trying to capitalize on that. And then this one's a little old because it just happened on Monday this week, but we had MDHR team out on site for interviews, try to get some feedback and some open opinions with some of our craft teams. So didn't hear a whole lot back from that, but hopefully it went well. And we'd be happy to have more of those and learn more of how our team's doing and any other opportunities that we can help our crews improve and have better participation. So I think that was it. And go to the next slide. Otherwise, questions if anybody has them.
Any questions for Ellis Black? Okay, thank you.
Salima.
Yes.
Yes, this is Jon Tao. I don't think I have a question for any particular prime contractor, but I would, however, like to share one of the stories that we got when we were out doing visits for workforce. And I think this is really telling of some of the concerns and why workforce is so important to us and the construction industry, because we ran across a laborer who's been working out in the field, but he's been a laborer for over 25 years, and he's in his 50s, 52 years old or so. And, he's reaching retirement age, and, for the amount of time that he's been in the laborers union and doing this construction work, he's seen people who are younger or else started later than him retire at 52. And that is the average age for people to retire in the laborers union. But part of the problem is that because of him and, his I guess status, he's a black man and the last to get hired and then the first to get laid off. So because of that, he hasn't been able to accumulate the amount of hours that's needed to earn the right to be able to retire with a pension. So in talking with him, he shared that he's going to have to work at least 4 to 5 more years to be able to earn enough hours to be able to retire. And he is worried and scared that his body will not last that long. And I think this is part of the problem that, we are trying to change and working with each other to find a solution and to find different ways to resolve, because the way that the system is right now, we have people who are working hard, doing everything they're supposed to do and following the rules, but the disparities are still there and they continue to persist, and it's not changing fast enough. So I really want to share that with you all to just emphasize how important this is, because these are people's lives and these are people who work really hard, and they are honest, hardworking people that deserve to be able to retire and benefit from this system that they are working in, that we are asking them to work in. So I just wanted to share that. And Elaine or Salima, if I missed any of the details that may be incorrect, please feel free to correct.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, John. for sharing that story. Yeah, John, he's actually older than 52. He's already 56 and is looking at 6 more years before he can retire. And he's been in the field for 34 years. And that's just, that story is heartbreaking and just tells us the work that is ahead of us. At the same time, I want to say that the job he has right now on this project, he's incredibly happy to be there. Incredibly happy to be there. But, you know, bodies give out at that age after having 34 years in the construction field.
Thanks, John, for sharing that. Does anyone want to open up discussion, further discussion on that area?
We'll be doing further research and talking to him. This is Christa with Londa. I don't know which area and stuff, nor do we need to discuss it during this meeting, but note that I will be working closely with the Department of Human Rights, Met Council, and our team, you know, regarding all of this, you know, because it is something, this is the first we've ever heard of it, but it's great to hear Salima say that he is happy on this project, you know, and such. And so to build that relationship with him, to, you know, do what we can, you know, those conversations will be had. So thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you, Christa. Hearing no other questions, we will move forward in our agenda. And we have the bench program from San Diego Association of Governments. And so thank you for being here. Do we have Elaine Richardson on the line with us?
Yes, I'm right here.
Great. And so Elaine is the Director of Diversity and Equity. And over the past 17 years, Elaine has been responsible for numerous small business programs and workforce development initiatives to increase equity within her region. Elaine has received a wide range of awards and is recognized as a champion for small businesses. And so again, thank you for joining us today, Elaine. And so we'll be starting at slide 43 through 70 for those who are joining us by phone and not online.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank John for the invitation to share our information about our bench program, because we, like you, our whole goal is to create more job opportunities for small and disadvantaged businesses to work on our projects. Okay, so next slide, please. So you're probably wondering, what is SANDAG, which is the San Diego Association of Governments? Well, we're very much like you. I was looking up at your website. We're the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the San Diego region, and we have about 3 million plus people that live in our region also. We're governed by our board of directors and in each of our 19 local governments, and that includes our mayors, council members, supervisors, et cetera. And like you, we're the public forum for regional decision making. We actually we have our regional plan that is in discussion right now, and that should be approved by the end of this year. It's a huge task because we are totally transforming how we look at transportation, because we have all these greenhouse gas requirements that need to be met. And so we're really focusing on what can we do with more transit, more active transportation, et cetera. Next slide, please. And so what do? We do planning, of course. We actually do a lot of research. We have an economist that is really well thought of throughout the, because when we're in the pandemic, he was presenting all this information about how many jobs were lost and all these different things. So we do have a lot of research people on staff. And then we also design, engineer, and build public transportation projects. And we do those for the San Diego Metropolitan Transit System and also North County Transit District. So we are their construction arm. And then we also make decisions on housing, public safety. We have a criminal justice section. We also are responsible for the automated regional justice information system. So we have a lot of varied responsibilities at SANDAG. Next slide, please. So what is the bench program? The bench program is really a pool of certified disadvantaged business enterprise and small business firms. And those pools make up the list of firms that can help support our primes with our on-call contracts. And so we have 3 bench programs. We have architecture and engineering, construction management, and planning. And the very first bench program was initiated in 2012, and it's just grown from there. Next slide, please. So to give you a little bit of background of how we developed this whole program, we were actually executing our 3rd series of architecture and engineering services for $260 million. So we actually do a lot of the engineering work that we work very closely with Caltrans, the DOT for California. And so we work really closely together in building out highway projects, different things like that. And so anyway, we have these huge on-call contracts. So previously, we always would set the goal at the contract level. And so we would, and these are professional services. So it's not like construction. If you set a goal of 10%, and they don't meet it, and they say, well, you didn't give us the right work, we couldn't meet it. So there wasn't really a lot of recourse. So we put together a steering committee. We said, what can we do differently here? Because, 2 of these have gone through, we spent like $400 to $500 million. We're not meeting our goals. What can we do differently? So we put a steering committee together, and it was comprised of a small business, a DBE that had actually grown and become a mid-sized firm. We had project management, contracts, and our department. And so we started talking, and we started thinking about, well, what about a bench? And normally a bench is a bench of primes that do a rotation, and as work comes up, you just choose the next prime. But we wanted to make it a bench of DBs and small businesses. And so we were talking about this, and we said, to the groupers, like, well, how many DBEs do you think that there are out there that can do our work? And the DBE that had grown said, you know what, there's only 8 DBE firms in this region that can do the type of work that you need, because it's very complex, because it's about transit and all of that. So we said, okay, so what we did was we took the scope of work, and we looked at the NAICS codes that you could break that scope of work out to, and we ran the list of DBEs, and guess what? 175 DBEs were created on that list. And so they're like, what? There can't be that many. So this is the thing. We have the California Unified Certification Program. It's not the easiest system for a prime to go in and say, hey, I'm looking for someone to do environmental, or I'm looking for someone to do surveys. It's just not that simple. So we said, okay, so now we know that there's all these DB firms out there. So now we need to figure out what the program's going to be, and we need to make sure that all of these DBEs and small businesses apply for our program. So that was the whole thing, is that, our goal is to foster small business partnerships with our primes, because they're the ones that we contract with, the primes. So they're going to have to allocate the work to the small and disadvantaged businesses. Next slide, please. So in order for a bench firm to do business with us, they have to be able to do 1 or more service. So of each of the different categories. So for our A&E bench, we have 46 services. For a CM bench, we have 26 services. And for planning, we have 14 services. So a bench firm can be on all 3 benches if they can do the work. But they also have to be either DBE or small business certified. Next slide, please. So we have 2 types of certifications that we actually acknowledge. And the first one, of course, is the DBE certification, because we are a direct recipient of Federal Transit Administration funding, and we're a subrecipient of Federal Highway Administration funding through Caltrans. And then we also recognize the State Department of General Services Small Business Certification, because it's online, it's simple to do, it can take 20 minutes. So that's what we want. We want it to be a simple system that as many small businesses as possible can register. Next slide, please. So when a bench firm wants to apply to be part of our bench program, these are the types of questions, information that they need to complete. So they have to provide what type of services, certifications that they have, their gross receipts over the last 3 years, and what types of projects are they comfortable bidding on, the size, the competition range. What references do they have? Who are the key staff that would work on our projects? They have to submit a capability statements and also anything to if they have a DBE or small business certification. Next slide. So in terms of reporting, we actually provide quarterly reports to our senior management on this program because you know what, you have to give us resources to run these programs. So whenever we develop a bench, like the A&E bench, because it's so large, we need a person to run the reports, to do all the registration, to answer all the questions. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding. And so I can tell you for the construction management, when we were going to go out for a new on-call for construction management, the primes were coming to us saying, please develop a construction management program. And then for planning, the same thing occurred, and also our project manager. So everyone understands how very important these bench programs are, so that our primes can meet their DBE and small business goals. Next slide, please. So in terms of monitoring practices, we actually meet with our prime consultants. So just to kind of give you a comparison, for our A&E, we are just about to execute our next series of A&E. So we have 17, well, we had 17 in the first program. We're going to have 15 in this program. So it's a lot of primes. So we meet with those primes and say, okay, we want to look at all of your DBE, all of your task orders that have DBE goals on it. And if they're not using that DBE firm, why aren't you using it? Are they going to be used at the end of the task order? If the work has changed, then you need to do a substitution, termination, all these different things. So they know we're very serious about it. So they can't just say, you know what, we'll do it at the end, because it goes into their consultant evaluation if they don't meet the goal. So we do have meetings with them. We also have an electronic system, and I can tell you, we could not monitor this many task orders, because we do hundreds of task orders every year, without an electronic system. And we use BDG now, which is kind of the Cadillac of DB prompt payment and DB utilization. So we use that to help us. And then we also evaluate each bench firm to make sure that their information is accurate, that they meet the criteria. We don't qualify the firms. That is up to the prime to do, but we do want to make sure that their certification is still in place, etc. Next slide, please. So here's some results of our A&E bench. So the first bench that we executed in 2012, we awarded $306 million worth of task orders. Of that amount, DBE and small businesses received 50 million, or 17% of the work, and DBEs alone received 8%. But the really amazing number is this 103. So to give you a comparison, prior to having a bench, we maybe had listed 8 to 10. Remember, there's only 8 DBEs that can do this type of work, but we might have 8 to 10 that had received work in the entire program. And now that program, we utilized 103 unique A&E firms. So to us, that's a major success. Next slide, please. And then this is our second series. Not quite as much work as our first series, 179 million of task orders, 31 million, or 17%, has been committed to DBEs and small businesses, and 11% or 20 million to DBEs alone. And we're at about 53 unique firms that have been working on those projects. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is our construction management bench result. And, it's not quite as large of a program as our A&E, but we did execute $164 million, and that's because we had our $2.2 billion project that was part of this, our Midcoast trolley line extension. And of that, 27%, or $44 million, went to DBE and small businesses, and for DBEs alone, 22%. So those are, to me, phenomenal numbers for our DBE program. And the number of bench firms is 24. And the reason is it's very different work as compared to A&E. Like one DBE firm can be on a project for 5 years, because that's how long our Midcoast project has taken to build. So anyway, those are also great numbers. Next slide. And this is our planning bench. It's fairly new. This is our most recent bench. And we've awarded $9 million, 14% have gone to DBs and small businesses, and 11% or about $1 million has gone to DBEs, and we've used 8 bench firms. Next slide, please. So I wanted to just share some information about, our A&E bench program before we had the bench and after. So the next slide, please. So prior to us using the bench program in the second series of A&E contracts, we awarded $9.4 million to our bench to A&E firms. And after that, with our bench, it had increased 436% to $50.4 million. So, I mean, yeah, this is testament to, if you have a program that works, that everybody will embrace, you will see a change in how much work a DBE or small business will receive on your programs and projects. Next slide, please. And so now I'm going to talk about some of the primes and what their feedback was on the program. We've always received, we work very closely with the engineering ACEC, and they tout that this is by far the best A&E program that they've ever dealt with, because it makes their job easy, that all they have to do is go on this huge list. And I can just tell you, for architecture and engineering, we have anywhere from 350 to 400 firms on that list. For construction management, about 250, and planning 150. Next slide, please. So this is the process that we went through in terms of how we developed this bench program. We had to develop the program first, then we went out, we did outreach to invite all the DBs and small businesses to apply for a bench program. Then once they apply, those applications come into us. We verify that they have the right certifications, that they, that their DBE is within the NAICS codes that they've, put in their application. And so we verify all the information, and then we actually develop this list, and we post this list on our website. So this list can be used by any agency that accesses our website. And so we've heard that the city of San Diego, different agencies have told their primes, hey, go there, you can find DBs and small businesses on that list. And that's what you want. You want to expose the DBs and small businesses as much as possible to other agencies, because we're not the only game in town with work. And then what our primes do is that they have access to all of the applications, et cetera, within our system. So they can go in, they can look at what their, qualifications are, et cetera, their capability statements. And then they go and they can contact them and talk to them about, tell us about what you do and how you do it, your references. So that's the process that we go through for our bench program. Next slide, please. And TY Lin is one of our large primes, and they have been so very supportive of this program. And I can tell you, if we have a 7% goal, they're usually at 14%. They always exceed the goal. Not that we tell them they have to do that, but they understand that it's really, really important to SANDAG that we utilize DBEs in small businesses. And so for the new A&E and CM on-calls, we've actually added a new component, which is small business, a 15% goal. So all non-federal, state, local, et cetera, task orders will require a 15% small business participation. And he said, what they've said is that by having this type of program, it helps them find firms with the right expertise, available staff, and it brings new and creative ideas to SANDAG's projects. Next slide. And QIC, they actually developed, it was one person at the very beginning, small business. And he was an engineer. I think he worked for Caltrans at one point. And he said, I want to be part of this. So he established his own firm as a small business. And he understood what it means to, to have other small firms, DBEs, participate. So his first contract, he got $3 million. And he committed over $680,000 to 9 bench firms. And then in our second on-call, he received 4 million, and he's already committed 1.6 million to 12 bench firms. So this is a great example that I can use for primes to say, if a small firm can allocate work as, you know, a third of their contract, then you should be able to do the same thing. Okay, next slide, please. So Midcoast Corridor Transit Project, this is the largest project, like I said, that's ever been built, transportation project ever to be built to the San Diego region. And it's going to be able to take, you know, we have a lot of our trolley tracks through the south and the east, but nothing to the north. So this is going to bring our trolley north by 11 miles. It was about a 5-year project. And it's considered a Gold Star project by FTA because we're within budget and we're meeting the schedule. So it's going to be opening. Our grand opening is November, the end of November. So we're really excited about it because we've all been working on this project for a very long time. So we use the construction manager general contractor type of procurement, which is an alternative type of procurement. And that allowed us to require a DBE subcontracting plan. And to me, that is the best tool that you will ever have for one of these large projects, because it's not just about meeting the DB goal. It's about what can you do to help DBs and small businesses be more competitive. So it's, you know, can you provide training to them? I mean, especially like labor compliance is so very difficult for, you know, small firms to understand. Bonding, insurance, outreach, can you mentor them? I mean, so it's a whole plan that they have to submit. It becomes part of our contract. And it took probably like 3 or 4 months for us to develop the final, but it really locks that prime into committing to doing as much as they can possibly do for DBEs and small businesses on their project. Next slide, please. So this is we show this on a monthly basis to our Midcoast team. And so we've been tracking. So we meet with our prime on a monthly basis because we didn't want to be caught at the end saying, geez, you know what, the goal was 11% and they're only meeting 5%. So we've been tracking it. And right now we do this trajectory. And right now they're at about 13.3. We think they're going to be anywhere from 14 to 15%. So we think this is a great success, not only because we're going to exceed the goal, we're going to meet or exceed the goal, but because of the many lives that we have changed on this project. So we're actually going to be doing a whole, like, we're calling it a magazine to kind of, you know, show this is what we've done. It's not just building this project that's going to change lives. We have changed lives from the people, the firms that have worked on this project. Next slide. So this, because we use B2G now, we know exactly how much is being paid to what DBE, so we can provide this type of report. So as you can see, all 6 groups of the DB program received work on this project, and the stats on it. So 109 DB firms received work, and normally on our, you know, $30 to $40 million construction projects, we might have 2 or 3 DBEs. So to have 109 and then to monitor all of their payments and all of that, that's why you definitely have to have an electronic system. And to date, we've paid 150 million to those 109 DBEs. So we know that this program works if both the prime and the public agency work together to make this a program that, you know, is great for everyone. So if you have an opportunity to use that type of system, I totally recommend it. Next slide. So what our prime did was they really liked our bench idea. So they said, you know what, we're going to put a bench together. So what we did with this contract, so normally with CMGC, you have to list all of your subs up front. And so we all talked about it and we're like, well, how do you list a landscaper that you're going to use 5 years from now? You're going to make them hold their price, and, you know, how can you really do that? So what we did was we worked with our legal department. We said, hey, we need to put some language in our contract that says we're going to allow them to add DBEs as the work comes up. So then they have a better idea of this. It's just like doing task orders. It's breaking down that work. So they developed this whole bench program. So they, they did outreach, they put all these different firms on the bench. So they were bidding their projects to the firms that were on the bench. And so some of the requirements for the bench program was that they had to have a California Department of Industrial Relations number, because that's required for labor records, and for the state. Quality safety records, California contractor's license, and they had to be able to show what NAICS codes they could support. Next slide, please. And now here's some of our success stories. So our board loves to hear these things. So we always try to provide these because it gets you to where the people are. Who are we helping on this project? So I actually met Dwayne Henry at, we have a mentor protege program, a construction mentor protege program in San Diego. And so he joined the program. And because it was in our Primes contract that they do mentoring, they also joined the program. So MCTC, Midcoast Transit Constructors, was Mr. Henry's mentor. So they could tell by his determination, his expertise, his drive that he was going to be successful. And Dwayne's, his whole objective was to get his very first public agency contract. So it was just him. So they gave him a contract for $25,000. And now, 3 years later, he is up to 1.3 million. He's been able to increase his staff from 1 to 6. And he's grown his scope because he does such great work. So he now does projects for the city of San Diego and several other public entities. So we're really happy to see that he is prospering. Next slide, please. And this is Ace Fencing Company. It's an Asian Pacific women-owned firm. They're both DBE and small business certified. They got their initial contract for $700,000, did such excellent work for the fencing. So their contract grew to $6.5 million. And this is the great stat. They were able to increase their staff from 15 to 96. So to think that a DBE receiving work on our contract, we're able to employ 100 more local workers on our project. That to me, it just, it speaks volumes of how all of this kind of comes around, and it's all successful in many different areas. Next slide, please. Okay, so this story, everyone always remembers this story, so I like to tell it. So Linnea's Transportation, I met Linnea before we started our Midcoast project way back in 2013. We did 4 huge outreach events in the 4 corners of the region because we wanted all the small businesses and DBs to know that, hey, we have this big project, we want you to be part of it. So we had the chair of our board speak, and we talked about, if you can be certified as a DB, this is the way you're going to get your foot in the door, etc. So Linnea, she had just bought her first truck from a salvage yard, and she wanted to be successful. And she said, it's going to be difficult because I'm in a male-dominated field. So she came to all of our outreach events. In addition to that, and she got her DB certification. In addition to that, the Department of Transportation reached out to us and said, hey, if you will actually host a training, we'll bring in all of these trainers that we'll talk about how to do estimating, how to do bonding and insurance and all these different things. And it was like I think it was a 6 or 8 week course every Wednesday. So we provide the venue. We even served dinner because it could only hold up to 40 people. She was lucky enough to join us, and she sat next to the head of the Midcoast project. And so she was telling him about her whole, woman-owned trucking firm and all of this. And he thought, you know what? I think we can help each other. So he gave her first contract for $500,000. It grew to $9 million. From her 1 truck, she now has 18 trucks, and they're all brand new trucks because she's been able to trade them out. She's increased her staff from 1 to 20, and she's gained numerous other public agency contracts with the CUP, the Public Utilities Commission, which was another $9 million contract. So I tell everyone, you know what? We are making millionaires while we are the lowly paid public servants, but that's our job. So anyway, those are our success stories for Midcoast. And that's the end of my presentation. I would be happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you, Elaine, for sharing that information with us and sharing the successes. I do want to open it up for questions. And to start, I have a question for you, Elaine. And so with the successes that you presented, what were some of the lessons that you learned along the way as well with regard to changing the way you do business?
Well, I think the lessons that we learned is this. So I can tell you when we went to the task order method of setting goals, we got resistance from Caltrans because that's not the way they do business. You know, you have to do your goals, you know, at the contract level. And we felt that this was so important to our program that I went to our director at the time and the Caltrans director. And we said, this is the program that we need for this bench program. And so they went up to Sacramento and they said, you know what? They went to meet with the head of FHWA, which is Vince Mamano. And they said, this is what we want to do. Well, when they explained what they were going to do to Vince, Vince said, you know what? Caltrans should be doing this. So the lessons learned from this part is that you can't ever give up because we wouldn't have a program if we couldn't have set the goals at the task order level. And so whatever you have to do, whoever you have to bump it up to, you have to just do that because, you know, it's only you that's going to fight for these, you know, small and disadvantaged businesses. And I can tell you now, our next phase is workforce development. So we're just in the process of developing a project labor agreement, community benefits agreement. But we're, you know, part of what's selling it to our board is our targeted workers program, the, you know, like the low income program, all these different programs that we're going to do because we need to help people in our region. And I don't think there's a board member anywhere that's going to say, no, we don't believe in that. So that's the kind of thing that we do with lessons learned. And also lessons learned is that, you know what, there's always going to be some primes that tell our small businesses, hey, we already have our team put together, we're not interested. Well, you know what, you need to come to me. And then we talk to that prime and say, hey, you wrote, you know, you submitted this whole plan on how you were going to help DBEs and small businesses. That's not the kind of response we want you to say to our small businesses that want to work with you. Any other questions?
This is John O'Phelan. I get a question maybe for the experts on our side, and thank you for that presentation. It was awesome. I'm gonna just call out like Barb Lau, Mary Schmidt, or somebody at Met Council. Are there pieces of this work, this bench work, that is unique to what they're doing compares to what we're doing? Is there what was your top 3 pieces that you think we could try to, you know, work here in Minnesota to, you know, create more success?
John, this is Mary Schmidt from MnDOT. One of the key differences, well, what I compare it to here at MnDOT is what we call our pre-qualification program. And we've got about 312 firms in the pre-qual program. It cuts across many more work types, I think. It's the most common way, the most popular way, frequent way that MnDOT actually hires professional technical consultants. So there's tons of different work types. There are even levels of qualification within individual work types. But our program is not limited to just TGB, or what we call our targeted group businesses, our TGBs, which would be the state designation primarily for women and people of color, but we also have a geographic based designation, our veterans. So it would be for our TGB, DBE. It's for all size companies. And so when I see this program, one of the big differences is your primary audience that you're trying to connect with are your DBEs and your other small businesses. And I'll just say, I'm not a really big fan of MnDOT's pre-qual program because of the 300 and I think it's 312 firms that are in our program, only 20% are a DBE or a TGB or vet firm. And we'd really like to bring those numbers up. So, but I find this very interesting because your bench is really about your TGBs and DBEs and things that I try to tell people, like counties or cities or others who might go to our directory of pre-qualification firms is, hey, first of all, if you're going to go there, choose a DBE or TGB. But secondly, just keep in mind that there's many TGBs and DBEs out there that are not in the pre-qual program because it can be quite difficult to get in because of the sort of the high bar that some of the categories are set. So I'm just really excited to hear this and interested to learn more. So thank you for that, John.
Mary, since Elaine went to Sacramento, what do we need to do at St. Paul? Any legislative changes here?
I'll tell you, John, I'm not really sure that there is anything statutory in the state statutes that I'm just not sure about that there would be anything in state statute that we would need to change in order to do something like this. That's something that we'd have to look into.
Oh, and I can tell you that we work very closely with Martha Kinley, who's the head of the FHWE DBE program. And they're actually they interviewed us because they're putting a manual together on alternative types of procurements and what you can do for the DBE program. So they're going to use our what we learned with our subcontracting plan, but they're also very interested in our bench program and how it works. So hopefully if you use FHWA funding, that, you know, once information comes out from them, that you will be able to implement it in a way that, you know, your DOTs can, you know, utilize these types of programs.
This is Jon Tao. I would say at the Met Council, for us, the way we've been doing it is we've been setting goals at the contract level. And then when it's local dollars where there's not any federal dollars, we have our own Met Council underutilized business program where we can, you know, selectively find DBEs that are able to do the work and then create kind of like a sheltered market for them to be able to bid and become prime contractors for this, but it's only with the local dollars. So this is very interesting with of a program for us. And I think what's beneficial is that for SANDAG, you guys did the framework at the very front end where you got it into the contracts and you got it through the policy and leadership levels. And then you even took it to FHWA to get them to put their stamp of approval on it so that you can roll out something like this and try it and pilot it. So for us, we have another light rail project that's coming down the pipeline. It's the Blue Line extension. So, you know, if we are wanting to implement these type of changes, then these are the early stages right now for us to be able to do that to when we're getting into the engineering phase and talking about contracts and how we are going to plan out work and working with our engineers to get this stuff together so that when the project does come out that we have these pieces in place to be able to be more equitable in our contracting.
Yeah, it's great that we can share this kind of information with each other, because even before we did the CMGC, we went to see several other public agencies that had implemented the CMGC concept. And by far, we like this process much better than the design build. We had much better success with this, with the CMGC than the design build.
Additional questions, thoughts?
I do have a question because especially when you're working with a pool of DBEs, there's always folks that are feeling like they're left out or I didn't get picked. So what have been some of the responses you received from DBE firms?
Yeah, and you know what? It's true of any type of program that you have because, you know, even though our numbers are great at over 100, well, if there's 350 to 400, there's that 75% that aren't getting work. And so what we do is we say, you know, if they come in and they talk to us, we tell them, you know what, we're here to help you. You know, we always will say, here's the list of the primes, here's all their contact information. And the biggest thing is that you have to be able to sell your firm to them. And so we actually have these big speed networking events whenever we execute these big contracts. And so we actually had one prior to the architecture and engineering, and because we had a virtual type of environment because we couldn't meet in person. So we told the primes, hey, this is we're expecting you to run this program. And so that, you know, because they're all on different, you know, computer platforms. So we actually had like over 1,600 meetings between the primes and the subs. And that's where we tell the subs, you have to go in there. Just don't go in there with, hi, how you doing? No, you're going to go in there and say, this is the type of work we do. These are the type of agencies we've done work with. You have to go in there with your 4 minute, and every 4 minutes, everybody switches. And so they had to, like, you know, book all these different appointments. We had this sheet that showed all the appointments that they booked, and they loved it. That, you know, the prime said, wow, that was so great, because now we can get back to those firms that we didn't spend enough time with. And those are the things that kind of get spawned from doing these types of programs. So yeah, not everybody's going to get work, but at least you can get your foot in the door to when they, you know, think of something like, hey, I need, you know, someone to take photos or whatever, that, you know, are technical, they might think of you. So that's the thing. It's hard to like be able to comment on everything that people say, but we haven't really gotten a lot of negative feedback from our bench firms. I mean, a lot of them have gotten work and some don't, but then we provide information about, this is what you need to do. This is how you get to know these people. They have to get to know you. You have to establish that relationship.
Thank you. Mary Schmidt, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, so Elaine, can you talk a little bit? So your program is really geared toward your primes hiring subs, but
yes,
you use the list as well, I would think, for your own agency, like when you're hiring people to help you do planning or whatever. I guess that's it seems like that's one of the big differences between what you've described today versus, again, what I go back to our pre-qual program, because our pre-qual program here is, it's a lot about MnDOT hiring and how we hire firms. Could you talk a little bit about, is it that the list is also there for your agency to hire?
Yeah, so the way it works here at SANDAG, because we have various procurement thresholds, anything over 100,000 has to be a formal procurement, and those take 6 to 9 months. So that's why we do these on calls. So if you have a planning project that you need done, you're going to use the planning on call to do it. So we don't do separate. Now, if it's a specific project, like we're doing this, you know, border crossing, and they need to do this like revenue analysis or whatever, they may do a separate whole procurement for that, but they're going to do a procurement. It has to be competitive. So you can't just choose firms off of that list. We still go through our competitive process. But the thing is, what that list is for is really for our primes. I mean, it's even for us to say, hey, there's, you know, we can look at the list, and if they say, well, I can't find a firm that does this, we can go to the list and say, but why can't you talk to these people? So, but we can't just go on there because of the procurement policies we have and just use firms off of there. We have to still go through the procurement process.
Thanks. And we have a comment and a question from Gilbert Adonker. And so great presentation, Elaine. And so the question is there a limit to the size of the project you run through the program?
No. So our bench program, like I said, it started off with 260 million. The last one was about 200 million. So no, there's not a threshold of this amount to be able to use the bench because it's just a list of firms. But it has to have like, so for communications, they don't have funding for a resource for us. So I'm like, okay, well then we can't do a whole bench for you because it's going to take us so much time. So instead they decided to, execute like 30 or 40 contracts, which is a lot to monitor. But in their procurements, are like maybe 40 million, but no, there is no limitation on the dollar value because it's just a list that's going to provide support to our prime so they can meet our DBE and small business goals.
Thank you. And I think I heard a reference to a consultant evaluation. Can you share a little bit more about that?
So at the end of a project, because, if they don't meet the goal or if they, don't have a good reason for meeting their goals or using their DBEs, we actually have a consultant evaluation process that we go through and we talk about, how did they do? Did they meet their DBE program goals and stuff? And so we do use those evaluations so that, the primes can learn, hey, we are monitoring what you do. We don't really have like penalties or whatever because that gets into a whole other thing with legal. So, but you know what? We really haven't had to implement anything like that because our primes all know how important this is to us. And so they pretty much all are committed to these programs. But we do have this consultant evaluation form that is used in contracts. What they do with it, I don't know, but we referred to it because we were like, okay, because it's kind of like our hammer to say, this is going to go into your consultant evaluation form. That's kind of our hammer, but we don't really have to use it very much because I think meeting with them on an annual basis, and sometimes it's 18 months because there's so many of them, that is really the connection that you need because they know we're going to hold them accountable. And that's the whole thing. If you just have a program and you never get back to them and nobody ever understands whether they met the goals or not, then they're just going to do what they want. But they know we are monitoring them. And that's the big thing in making sure that they meet their goals.
Thank you. Thanks again for that information. Really appreciate you being here with us today. Are there any other questions? I think we have one from John. What are the staffing resources needed to run one bench program and how many contracts DBEs do the staff oversee?
Okay, so at any one time, so we have one analyst, which Brittany, who's on the line with us today, she is responsible for managing our bench, our architecture and engineering bench. And then we have another resource that manages both the construction management and their analyst level because they do spreadsheets and all that type of thing. And the second one does both the planning and the construction management. So those are the resources. So when we, are discussing what a project manager wants for their program, we always are upfront. If you want a bench firm, you're going to have to provide a resource. So right now we only have 3 benches. So we have 2 people that support that. And they do have a little bit of time to work on some other projects that we may have, but that is their main focus is those 3 programs.
Wonderful. Anyone else? Again, a big thanks to you. Thanks for being here today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you, John. And I really appreciate you reaching out because you know what, when we did that article for the American DBE magazine, I was hoping that, other agencies would want to implement this because this is great for those underserved firms that we all want to help. And so whatever we can do, whatever we can put in place that makes our jobs easier and our primes jobs easier to do that, that's what we want to do. So again, thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you today.
Thanks. And I will turn it back over to Salima.
Thank you so much, Sai, and thank you again to our speaker for a wonderful, wonderful presentation. We are now back to having a system of public comments that would happen within our meeting, and speakers can identify ahead of time if they're interested in making public comments in the meeting. Today we have one such speaker, and they're allocated 3 minutes to present their comments. We're providing the email here in case someone in the future wants to be able to make a public comment, that they can notify us so that we can make sure that they are registered for it. I would like to invite now our person who had registered for public comments, Janine Davis of MN Streetworks.
Hi, everybody. I thank you for listening to what I have to say, but I guess it's kind of more of a comment or a question. And my question is through my experience on projects of this type, once the contract goal with the DBE companies are met or fulfilled, that subcontractor is moved off the project and the general either self-performs or has a non-DBE finish out the project. And the DBEs usually do not get the opportunity to do additional work on this project. I just want to know, are you guys addressing things like like this with this project?
Thank you, Janine, for your comment and your question. And I think certainly we are aware, I think, of your particular situation. And so Brian Renzel is here as well today to speak to
Yes, I didn't. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sick, and so I'm losing my voice. I'm not sure if Janine was wanting to talk about her specific situation or not. I think generally, though, you know, it's critical that our contractors meet the DBE goal. It's been my experience that I mean, I see certainly. I'm very involved in the with the civil contractor, and I see a lot of evidence of them continuing to pursue DBE opportunities, even though they're exceeding the goal. I just have personally witnessed a huge growth of public solutions group with our civil contractor. So I'm not sure I've seen a lot of that. I know maybe specifically on the operations and maintenance contract, you know, that contract's coming to an end. So there's certain work that just, you know, that operations and maintenance facility contract is largely working indoors now. Most of the outside work is done. So the needs of the contractor are just changing as the work is wrapping up over on the operations and maintenance facility. So I guess I'm not totally sure I've seen what we're talking about here, but it is true. The number one goal is to meet the DBE goal, and I think the contractors are doing an excellent job of doing that, as the record reflects.
I guess maybe that you guys didn't understand what I was saying. I'm not just specifically talking about myself. The thing is that I've noticed on other projects of this type that once the DBE subcontractors contract is fulfilled, they are removed from the project, and then either the general self-fulfills or self-performs the rest of the work, or they call in another company without giving DBEs the opportunity to do additional work or be able to bid for additional work on the project. And I'm not just speaking for myself. I've been in the industry for 14 years, and I have witnessed this several times on many projects, and it's something that me as a DBE has spoke with other DBEs about, and this is a huge issue with all of us.
Thank you for sharing that, Janine. And I understand that we're not talking specifically about your situation, but the awareness of the issue itself. And so what I can say is that's not the intent of our program. And certainly we want to make sure that there's contracting opportunities that continue for the businesses themselves. And what I want to emphasize for you and others that are experiencing this is that the off-week opportunity is definitely available to work directly on any particular issues or concerns that you have. And so as these arise, we can handle them on circumstance by circumstance, but we'll take a look at what the general comment and question is that you're sharing with us as well. And Barb, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, Sai, I just wanted to note, what Janine's saying is not a mystery to me. This is something that we see all the time, and not just Met Council, but MnDOT as well. And I think, Brian, I'm going to take a little exception with something that you said, and I'm sure you probably didn't mean it. You said the main goal is that the DBE goal is met, and my main goal is that the DBEs themselves have fair opportunity to complete projects and not go under. So, and that we build their capacity. And so that's why you guys always hear me monitoring every dollar value, wanting to see the change order pieces, all of that, so that just because the overall goal was met or exceeded, if one or two of the subcontractors that are DBEs are actually hurt in the process or go out of business in the process, that to me is not beneficial. So I just wanted to comment on that and to say that, that's why I appreciate this particular meeting that we have every month, to be able to see the forward progress as a whole, and for all of us to see it, and not just the little one-off meetings that we're.
I think we lost you on the end there, Barb.
I just gave a thank you very much for letting me talk, and that I appreciate these meetings on a monthly basis, so we can regularly be looking at that as a group and not just a number of like side one-on-one meetings.
Thank you.
This is Jon Tao. I would like to also add and emphasize that the Office of Equal Opportunity is here as a resource, and we want to support the DBE subcontractors on this project and provide, be a resource to the DBEs in our region here. And I think Barb, you shared that, and Janine shared that this is something that you are encountering as small business owners, that contractors are not following through with these type of things and not doing work in the spirit of the program to create more opportunity and access for small businesses. And I think that is valid. Part of what the challenge also is too is what's in those contracts that are agreed upon by the businesses. So I think that if there are more, depending on each contract and what's in those contracts, that also dictates the performance, and then the parameters of, does a DBE firm continue work after, their work is completed, because those contracts outline a lot of, what can be done or not done. And but we do continue to look for different ideas and different ways to resolve this, because I think that I do agree that is a problem, because if our small businesses are limited to just doing work and then being pushed off once the goal is met, then that is not the spirit of the program. We want them to continue to grow and to do business, and to help their businesses grow and eventually graduate from the program is the idea of the program. So.
But John, I would just add in, it makes me a little nervous if we say, if we start looking to the letter of the contract all the time, and that almost is when I think about what's going on right now at a bigger picture, which I talked to Ashanti about last week, and that's, the literal piece where we have these price escalations, and we have this 2-year delay that we haven't quite figured out the scheduling and the implications of how that hurt DBEs and all of that. And so I think that I think we have the opportunity to continue to do better, and that every time we bring an issue comes up, we keep getting caught in these same loops of, oh, well, the contract says this, or, oh, the delay was because of this, or, and I think that for me, it's really frustrating, just as I know it is for many of you. And this, and by the way, I am not picking on contractors or subcontractors or the council in themselves, but I am saying we had a million meetings going into this project about best practices and things we weren't going to let happen and how we were going to do it differently. And I feel like we are failing on some of the initiatives we set up to do. And when that happens, the people that are hurt the most are the small subs. And so I would just challenge us all to try and remember the things that we set up ahead of time, and how we wanted to chime this as a success and not just so we made it through. And that's what I would do, is just challenge us all to work together better so that the end result is something that we're all proud of.
Thanks, Barb, and thanks, Janine. And again, we are a resource when there are those direct conversations that we need to have about particular contracts. But your point is well taken, Barb, about this being a larger issue and what is the real impact and sustainable changes that we want to make for inclusive contracting, and not just contracting, but the opportunities for the small businesses. And so that point is taken. That concludes our public invitation comment period. So I want to thank you all for participating in today's meeting. Remind you that our next meeting is September 16th of 2021. Stay connected as always on those construction updates, and so you continue to get the emails that are sent out about the Southwest Light Rail Project Office. And with that, our meeting is adjourned for today. Thank you, everyone. And thanks again for our guests for attending today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye,
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.